Hi, my name is Bob McCaffrey, and I'm going to be presenting a presentation we've entitled, What Should We Invest In? This is going to be a discussion of the advantages of CFR versus the traditionally accepted EMT level. It's not to discourage anyone from or to show favoritism for one level over another. It's purely to be an informational presentation, hopefully a good discussion starter on what the new curriculum is going to mean to response potentials in the various agencies in Oswego County. For those that are not aware, New York State is moving towards a nationally accepted standard for EMS education, and it's going to have some changes that impact us as agencies, as future students in programs, and whether we're new or we're recertifying for the umpteenth time. You might have heard various things about the changes in EMS education. Some people are hearing that there's new levels being created and levels being eliminated. There's talks about who's in, who's out, procedures that are coming and going, and this is back to the old way, etc. And what I hope to inform you on is what things are really going to look like in New York State. And I want to prepare you for conversations that are essential to be held in conjunction with line officers, boards of directors, the rank and file, and hopefully also the people in your response areas. One of the groups that's frequently cut out of discussions on how things are going to be are the community, because we've just historically been poor at including them in this. The info here is intended to give you the ammunition to foster discussions that'll decide on what's going to be best if we want to continue to provide quality service here in Oswego County. Now, Oswego County has 6 regular ambulance services that provide 24/7, 365-day-a-year coverage to the county. The city of Oswego provides a fire-based ambulance service, the only one existing in the county. SAVAC Ambulance at the SUNY Oswego campus provides first response ambulance and standby for events that happen on campus. They're very good at providing mutual aid to the surrounding community, but they're a BLS service. All the ambulances in Oswego County are certified, and that is not changing. Part 800 requirement is not changing to eliminate EMT as the minimum level to staff an ambulance. So if you call any ambulance in the state of New York and it's certified, at least a basic EMT should be stepping off the back of it. That's not the same for our BLS first response agencies, which we're going to talk about in just a second. If you look here, list every first response agency in Oswego County. The large type, Oswego Town, Palermo, and Hannibal, are ALS first response agencies, providing advanced emergency medical care with the techniques of at least an intermediate up to and including paramedic as the potential in all their agencies. So this is something that is essential to understand the difference. Those 3 agencies have to have vehicle certification requirements, minimum equipment lists, and they have to participate in things like quality continuous improvement through the county as a requirement to maintain their certification. The remaining agencies are BLS first response agencies. They're not regulated by New York State EMS. That's not to say that they're exempt from regulation. It just means the state agents are not going to be visiting you on a regular basis. You're going to be left to your own responsibilities, practicing what is considered responsible care to the people in your community, and it's understood that an ambulance is going to be incoming to your calls and taking the patients off your hands and moving on to definitive care. Now, New York State has linked themselves with the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration's EMS agenda for the future. All right, the future is now. For a long time, this has been discussed. People have said, wouldn't it be nice if we had the same certification levels nationwide? And it's arrived. The national agenda has been adopted by New York State. They adopted the document as written, which means when you look at the document, it'll have some terminology that's new to you. For example, in New York State, we've decided to keep the term New York State Certified First Responder. On a national level, it's known as EMS First Responder, or EMS Medical Responder, excuse me. Why is this an important change? New York State was sensitive to agencies. Many people have invested personal money in our large volunteer-based organizations, in jackets. Vehicles have been lettered. Stationary indicates a lot of things point to keeping the first responder title, even though the national title is different. With the exception of that, we've embraced the document. Some people say, well, why did they do a thing like that? Well, in case you haven't been up on the local politics in New York State, state government is broke. Recall the phrase in the news, unfunded mandates and pushes for less regulation. Let's all be on the same page. Well, we asked for it as people in New York State, and we got it. The question is, are you going to like it long term? Those are political discussions you can have down at your local diner on your own time. But traditionally, EMT classes had a set duration that was established by the Bureau of EMS, 130 to 150 hours. Now you should expect 165 to 170 hours for an EMT class. EMT classes are not just a set number of hours and the course ends. Competency and content and understanding is going to drive the length of a course to a degree. Let me give you an example of this. A municipal fire department runs a first responder program or an EMT class, because that was the first example I presented of 165 to 170 hours. We'll stay with that level. A EMT class at a municipal fire department where the programming is presented to young men and women, traditionally in their early to mid 20s to their early to mid 30s, who are good test takers, have a certain degree of established record in their ability to read and respond to information at a certain pace, is going to be different than some places in the state where we have people enroll in classes anywhere between the ages of 17 and 70. People who have degrees in engineering and people who failed to complete high school. So these are the differences we have, and we need to adjust for that. So there's going to be some differences. This means that we just have to accept certain things, and one of them is that there's going to be added material, and there's going to be major concepts that are being taught in levels, and there's going to be a return to increased expectations for the basic EMT level. For example, anatomy is going to come back with a lot more rigidity than it had previously. For those that remember when EMTs had to know what a femur was, and then some people remember when it was just the upper thigh. The femur is back. that kind of detailed knowledge is going to be a prerequisite for completing EMT. There's going to be physiology concepts delivered. For example, acid-base balance, which was something that wasn't delivered until more advanced EMT levels, is now being pushed down to the basic EMT level. The whole intent is basic EMTs are going to build out from first responder with the idea that people are going to work on advanced life support ambulances and maybe increase to the advanced EMT level of some degree in their future. The new EMS programs themselves all hinge on the idea that CFR is the new starting point. If you look at the curriculum, if you look at the agenda and the flow charts as they move up, for EMT, it'll say everything in first responder plus this. Everything in the EMT level will say includes first responder, EMT, and now add this. Paramedic references first responder, EMT skills, and then includes the paramedic skills. So it's truly a scaffolded program that allows for a cleaner, more logical sense of progression from the most basic level of first responder to the highest level of field certified provider in New York State, which is paramedic. The system is starting with a clean slate approach, and this is important because it's part of a national system, which includes a diverse field of providers and delivery models, which we see even here in New York State, all the way from people who are first responders on fire apparatus, police agencies, construction companies, industrial specialized response teams, guards in the prison system, etc. The existing providers are going to have to do one of two things: move up or move out. And this is not a new concept. It has happened in the fire service. There's been people who didn't like increased training standards at different points in the careers, and they either moved up or moved out. I'm going to introduce the term transitional programs because that's going to be a key term you're going to hear a lot in the next few years, particularly the next 3 years, because certification cycle in New York State is based on 3 years. As of December 1st, 2012, all programs have to test to the new standards. So you have to have some proof that you've completed a transitional program to recertify sometime between December 1st of 2012 advancing 3 years into the future. So this is going to be a concept your local agencies or your county agencies or your regional directors and agencies will be providing training and opportunities for you to become familiar with this material. Let's look at the side-by-side differences of EMT hours versus certified first responder. The certified first responder is 48 to 60 hours compared to the 170 to 190 hours for an EMT. Yes, in short, first responder is 1/3 of the time. But there are going to be skill differences that might swing your agency to either encourage people to participate in first responder or say, if you want to do first responder, that's great, but we still need to have EMTs as our primary providing level. There's going to be certain things the first responder cannot do. Some of those key things are they cannot provide cervical collar skills, they cannot KED, and they cannot backboard victims. They don't splint, they don't provide aspirin, no nitro. So this is the thing you have to ask yourself. If you're a rescue agency that considers collaring, KEDing, and boarding bread and butter operations, your quote unquote job at the scene and you don't want ambulance people involved in it because they don't have the equipment, in your opinion, or in reality, in many cases, or there's safety issues, or you have agreements with the incoming agencies about what you're going to have done prior to their arrival, you're going to have some discussions about where you need to go with regards to the current response pattern. Is it sustainable or not sustainable? New York State BLS first response agencies are not accountable or regulated by the Bureau of EMS until such time that they start practicing beyond their level of training. Then you're going to start having problems. You're going to get visits from state agents. You're going to have legal issues when patients accuse you of providing skills outside your realm and possibly causing injury. I suggest you have discussions with your county coordinator, your program medical director, your attorney, and your insurance company before you make the hard decision. Oh, we're only going to be first responder, but we're going to do our stuff anyway, the way we always have. Be very cautious about that. When you color outside the lines, you become personally liable. In some cases, you become a negligent provider. You become an agency that's providing care beyond your scope of practice, and it may cause you legal and financial troubles that you didn't ever dream you would have. If you take the New York State Certified First Responder course training requirements of 48 to 60 hours and couple that with the New York State Firefighter 1 standard, and you put it together with 84 and 48 to 60, you have a street level fire EMS responder for a less investment of time than you did sending them to just EMT class. Am I bringing this up to say that first responder is a better level than EMT? No, I'm not going there. Where I'm going at this is in many communities, we have people that are volunteering that have limited time. They work one or more jobs. They have to maintain agency requirements such as ride time, call volume, departmental meetings, training requirements beyond their initial trainings. And when you couple that with trying to maintain a family life and personal life, it gets overwhelming for some providers, and they quit before they really get trained well. So the question you have to ask yourself is what do we have for a candidate pool, and should we encourage them to become certified first responder so we have at least a minimum training for people providing care off our vehicles, or should we encourage them to move to the EMT level? And even though they recognize the difference of vast hours of training difference. One of the biggest questions we have to ask ourselves is who's responding to a call at 0600 in your district versus 1800? How about 09 versus 1500 and everywhere in between? Compare that to 2100 versus 3 o'clock in the morning. Are there times when you have no medical, even for the quote-unquote good call? Are there times you have no response, period? Does this new agenda trigger anything for you as a chief, as a person looking to take a class, or as a citizen in any of these districts that are in Oswego County? Could your response be stronger or more dependable if the CFR was embraced in addition to or instead of EMT in your district? When that whistle or pager goes off, who's responding? What is best for your area and who decides? We're a diverse county. We have 2 small cities, but we're predominantly a rural county. We have areas of the county that have, on a good day, a 25-minute response time, lights and sirens from an ambulance station to the furthest point in the district. That's not a criticism, that's a reality. What are you going to do is going to be based a lot on what your community has enjoyed in the past and what you think you can provide in the future. You're going to have these discussions. There are additionally going to also have to be discussions that you have just not at a department level, but also with your elected officials, particularly at the village, town, city, or county level. Because there's going to be changes in funding that happen on all those levels, and even our state officials are going to need some encouragement from us about what we want, because funding is what drives everything. Most of us enjoy decent equipment, and it's not so much the money for the vehicle that's the problem, or even the supplies, but the manpower to put on these vehicles is starting to become in short, we do not have it. There are people who just can't handle the time commitments of providing the care and the training. There's some people that just have said that their lives are just so busy they don't have time to respond anymore, or they just plain don't live in the area anymore. So what we're going to do is going to also provide you with some information. These are web resources and places you can go for help. New York State Department of Health EMS Bureau has a fantastic web page. You can find all the information that's as current as it can be on that web page. There's contact numbers if you want to contact people in Albany or Central New York or wherever in the state you are to get some assistance on questions you may have. If you want to see the national EMS agenda, you can go to ems.gov. It's clearly laid out. It's a downloadable, or you can read it right on the web page. Oswego County EMS has contact numbers for the Oswego County EMS coordinator, Jim Jones. It also has information about upcoming classes that we have going on in our area. And if you have other questions and you'd like to, or you have questions, comments, or concerns about this presentation, feel free to contact me at the email address provided. I hope you've enjoyed this and found this an informative presentation. And if you have any comments or concerns, please feel free to forward them to me, or you can post a comment, hopefully a positive or constructive one, right here on YouTube. Thank you very much and have a good day.